So let's talk about how shooting like this can make your footage look even better. Hey everyone, Camber here, back with you, and today we're talking about picture profiles and how they can make your footage look even better. And if you're new here, this channel is all about teaching you how to use your camera to make good videos, so if that's you, consider subscribing. Now, what are picture profiles and why would you want to use them? Well, most cameras come with automatic settings that boost your contrast, colors, and sharpness, and this makes your video look nice if you don't plan on doing any color correction. However, it also makes it very difficult to adjust any of those elements once you get to editing. And the reason for this is because in order to fit the massive amount of data that's required when recording video and then fitting it into a limited memory capacity, your camera has to compress that video when recording. And so what your camera is doing is essentially recording the video, and then it's adding in the saturation, sharpness, contrast, and has to bake those things into the final compressed video. And any data compression will inevitably deteriorate your image quality somewhat. And so adding these video effects on top of your already recorded video will worsen the video quality further by processing the already deteriorated images. And so once you get to editing, if you find problems with your footage, trying to apply more video effects in order to fix it can make the problems even more noticeable and deteriorate your footage pretty rapidly. But picture profiles process those video signals before compressing, and this provides you with a low contrast, high dynamic range, and flat color profile that's a good base for color grading. And this allows you to make those adjustments in color, contrast, and sharpness without having to fight against the settings that your camera's already applied to your footage. And this is really useful because it is a lot easier to add to your image than it is to try to take away what your camera's already baked into your shots. And shooting this way means that your camera retains more information about the image because your camera isn't throwing out a bunch of color information that it doesn't think it needs anymore since it already applied its color settings. So how do you apply a flat color profile on your camera? Well, some cameras come preloaded with flat color profiles, and I'm going to cover some of the Sony Alpha series preloaded picture profiles in this video. However, I'll make some separate videos in the future on how to use your Canon with a flatter profile and also on some of the DJI drones. But Sony has several flat color profiles including S-Log2, S-Log3, Cine 2, and Cine 4. The S-Log profiles contain the most dynamic range, but they can be quite difficult to color grade if you're a beginner. Cine 2 and Cine 4 are a bit easier to grade because they only require slight adjustments to get them looking pretty good. And I prefer shooting Cine 4 just because the base ISOs on those S-Logs can get pretty high up there and I don't want to have to carry a bunch of ND filters. And I also like the easier color grade that comes with the Cine 4. And the picture profile I like to use on the Sonys is picture profile 8, but with the S-Log switched to Cine 4. In addition to setting the flat color profile on your camera, you want to make sure that you set your white balance properly based on the type of lighting you're using. Because if you leave your white balance set in auto, then your colors are going to shift throughout your shots, which you definitely want to avoid. And if you don't know what white balance is, just check out this video I made here on white balance because it is a very important setting on your camera. And one of the issues with flat color profiles is that it can be difficult to figure out the correct white balance because your image looks so washed out on the viewfinder. Well, here's where one of my favorite Sony settings comes into play, where you can apply a LUT, which stands for lookup table, on your viewfinder so that you can see what the image looks like without actually applying any effects to your footage. So essentially the LUT is applied to your camera's viewfinder or monitor, but not to the actual recording. And the benefit of this is that you get to see an image on location that's closer to what the final image will look like after color grading. And by not baking the LUT into your final image, then you get the added flexibility of being able to change your look entirely in post. So even though picture profiles are a great tool to help you with getting better looking footage, you may not always want to use them. If you have plenty of time in your post-production workflow, then definitely try to record as flat as possible in order to give you the most flexibility when you get to editing. However, if you're on a tight deadline, you can dramatically reduce the amount of post-production work by recording the video as close to the finished product as possible with letting your camera apply all those settings. But that's just a quick overview to give you a broad introduction into how you can get more out of your camera and get better flexibility when it comes to color correcting and grading your footage in the edit. So if this video is helpful, go ahead and hit that thumbs up and let me know down below if you do have any more questions about picture profiles or shooting flat footage. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and remember that the only way to get better at something is to practice. So get out there and film something. See you soon.